Hi everybody, and my name is Tommy. Welcome back with today's lesson. Today we are going to travel to 3 new countries. Really good, right? You better wait for the countries because there are some pretty interesting things about God and other things in the past. So, first, we're going to talk about each country first. First, we have Israel. What is the word Israel? Israel has a capital and the city where our God was born. I'll tell you later. Next of all, Israel is near North America. It is usually considered the smallest country in the world. It's very crowded, but still it is a really small country. Its cities are crowded. So now, do you know which sea we can go to go fishing? Well, when we go fishing, we go to the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee is full of fish. Really. Maybe we can catch some fish for lunch if we want to. If we live in Israel. Do you know some place that it's really easy to swim in Israel? In Israel, the most easiest place to swim is the Dead Sea. Do you know why? Number 1, if you see the spots on a picture of the Dead Sea, you might think that they are just rocks. But actually, they are salt. So it's salt, but it's not rock. Understand? Well, now, when we look at Israel, those tiny bits of salts go out to the sea and they create rocky-like minerals that float, but we can't see them. Once we set our bodies on them, they help us float. So that's why it's easy to swim in the Dead Sea. So if you don't know how to swim, maybe go to there to swim. So now, let's just get back to our lesson. So, last time we learned about the Netherlands. How do we get to Israel? Israel is near the Netherlands. So we could take a bus for 1 day to come there. We can visit the town where our God was born. Who is our God? You guessed it, Jesus. He was born in the city of Bethlehem. Bethlehem, we can see hillsides. What is a hillside? A hillside is, for example, a tall point of earth is a mountain. A short point, but still tall, it's called a hillside. And we are called, and a rock is just a rock. It is the smallest hillside ever. Well, let's just move on. Let's just move on with the next part. Now, what is next? You are going to get to learn about Jesus and where we will swim, what it is like living in Israel. Jesus walked on the water of the Sea of Galilee. Why did he walk on there? He is our God. He can rise from the dead. And his disciples caught many fish from this sea. So that's why people always go to the Sea of Galilee sometimes to go and fish for a gigantic shark or a fish, or there are 2 points of catching something. One, they might catch a fish, and two, they might catch something mysterious, because things are always mysterious where Jesus lives. He's our God. He created a bunch of magical things, and because he rose from the dead, he never died. So that's why people still keep sheep, because sheep people took care of it. So now you were gonna get to learn about the Dead Sea, why it is easy to float. Let's go for the swim in the Dead Sea. This sea is really beautiful. It is very easy to float in the salty water. Do you know what is Jerusalem? Jerusalem. You don't say it Jerusalem, you say it Jerusalem. 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 Jerusalem is the most important city in Israel. It is one of the oldest cities in the world. The shepherd boy David ruled here as king for many years. Later, Jesus was taken outside the city and crucified. 3 days later, he arose from the dead. Today, when we visit Jerusalem, we can see old buildings and walls that have been here since Bible times. We can also see modern buildings that look just like the buildings in the United States. A picture of a castle that you could see in Jerusalem is really famous. So now, Israel. We've come to Israel. And now, as we travel through India, we will see many people. There are also many people in Israel, but not very much today. There are over 1 billion people living in India. The cities in India are like cities in America. They are big and busy. There are many unique animals that live in India. In our country, we could go to a zoo to see these animals. The animal on the right is, the snow leopard. Where could we see a snow leopard? 1, we could see it in the winter. 2, we could see it at a zoo. Where we will see the most beautiful tiger in India. Also in the zoo, but not in the wild. So, this is only a short trip, 3 days to India. Now I will talk more about India. In India and the next country that we get to, there are loads of animals I want to show you. One animal in India is called the panda. You know everything about a panda. In the Indian forest, they have loads of pandas. Indian bamboo forests. But there's another type of panda in our next country that we'll travel to. So, when you leave somewhere, where will you go? What type of transport will you use? You could use an airplane, Or if you're traveling to someone really far, you might use a underground electric subway train. You could use a motorbike if you're in for a short distance. And you could use a car if you're in for a middle-sized distance. And a bus to go from one country to another if they are sticking together. Understand? One country sticking with another country equals a bus. When we leave India, we may fly over the Himalaya mountains. How do you say it? Himalaya mountains. So what is the Himalaya mountain? Well, the Himalaya mountains are just the Himalaya mountain range between China and India. There's a lot of snow in the mountain range. It covers most of the trees. Some of the parks that you would like to circle are the parts that have snow because some people really like skiing. Okay, so now let's move on with the next part. Hello, and now we are going to fly over the Himalaya mountains, and then we reach the country called China. What is China? China is the country where there is the biggest wall on Asia. That is because that big wall is the wall that we could see from space. And now let's just move on with our trip through the Himalaya mountains. As we fly over the Himalayan mountain range into China, you may see Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. More people live in China than any other country in the world. There are more than a billion people, just like in India. Most of the Chinese people live in the countryside. Many are farmers who grow rice. Rice is one of the main foods in China. We will enjoy seeing the Great Wall of China. The Chinese built the wall many years ago. Why? To protect them from enemies, of course. So enemies will never go into their land if they have that wall. When there's a fight, they'll cut away the stairs and then the whole staircase will fall down. There is an animal that we hope to see while we are in China. You guessed it, the panda. But what type of panda? China is home to the giant panda. The giant panda. You might think of a panda if you say giant panda, you might think of a panda whose body is the bionic touch. But that's not how the giant panda looks. Why? The giant panda is the biggest panda in the world. It doesn't have any bionics. It doesn't have any bionics. It doesn't have any wings. It doesn't have anything. It just eats bamboo and has a fat belly. These beautiful animals live in the bamboo forests here. There are not many pandas left because there are not as many bamboo forests as there used to be. Pandas we might see in a zoo in the United States are from China. So here's a picture of a panda acting just like a person, eating bamboo using hands, like this. Or maybe holding a stick. ready to get out a tooth that has been broken. Now let's just move on with the next part about the giant panda. Now, did you know that the giant panda is one of the largest pandas in the world? Well, you see, do you remember anything from our lesson? Remember, Israel is the most important country in the continents of Americas. We can take a bus from Egypt from the last country to Israel, or we can even take one from Egypt because Egypt is much nearer. We can visit the town of Bethlehem where Jesus was born. Jesus rose from the dead, so that's why farmers still have sheep today. Jesus walked on the river, on the water of the Sea of Galilee. His disciples caught many fish from the sea. Maybe we can catch some fish for lunch. Do you know how he arose from the dead? Arose from the dead. He could have been drowned in the water like this. Number 1, drowned in the water. Number 2, 3 days later. And number 3, arose in the water. And a spooky Jesus. So do you understand what arose means now? Arose means going up from one place to another. So now, that's all about the city that Jesus has been in there. So now, what about in India? In India, there are many beautiful animals, such as the snow leopard and the Indian tiger. India also has the Alps, called the Himalayan mountains. When we leave India, we could see some Himalayan mountains. These are some highest mountains in the world. They separate India from China, the next country we'll visit. This is Mount Everest. As we fly over the Himalayan mountain range to China, you may see Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. More people live in China than any other country in the world. Chinese people live in the countryside. Many people are farmers who grow rice. Rice is one of the main foods in China. We will also see the Great Wall of China. The Chinese built the wall many years ago to keep their enemies from coming into their land. There is an animal that we hope to see in there while we are at China. China is the home to the giant panda. These beautiful animals live in the bamboo forests here. There are not many pandas left because there are not as many bamboo forests as there used to be. So that's why we should protect the pandas. Pandas that we might see in the zoo in the United States come from China. If you ever guess which continent we'll go to next, think about going this way. Where is it? What is its name? Australia. But where is it? It is in the southeast. Southeast of the map. So that's the continent that we're gonna go to in the next lesson. Australia. That is the continent. Some animals, some that are destructive and some that are nice, could be the platypus, the kangaroo, and the koala. And I'll just say that for a few seconds about Australia, and you find out more about Australia because we're gonna be learning about Australia, Japan, Australia and Japan in the next lesson. So, bye and see you next time with Australia and Japan.